La laïcité est la forme de citoyenneté républicaine française qui n'a aucune racine en Amérique. Alors, en conclusion, je vous ai donc au début conversé, c'est une espèce d'inversion de l'histoire des idées ou de l'histoire même du Québec. C'est que la laïcité a été pensée, instaurée, inventée pour la protection notamment de la religion minoritaire. Et présentement, c'est comme si on voulait utiliser la neutralité de la laïcité pour réprimer les religions minoritaires. S'il y a des malaises qui sont ressentis dans la population à la confrontation de diverses manifestations physiques des croyances d'autrui, elle est simplement le fait de toutes les sociétés pluralistes et c'est pour cela que la tolérance et les droits de la personne ont été inventés. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Alors, je passe le micro à Professor Weinstein.
So thank you very much. This is the point at which I'm supposed to say that it's a pleasure to be here. I think it would be a lie for me to say that it's a pleasure to be here. I think that we would all probably rather be doing something else on not that sunny Sunday afternoon than talking about what is not yet a bill, what is not yet a proposal, but sort of a proposal about a proposal that seems to me, weeks after it's been put forward and weeks after we've been thinking about it, to be a response to a problem that doesn't exist, and a response to a problem that shows no signs of existing in the near or even mid-future of Quebec society. When bills are put forward, there has to be some kind of a rationale for them, especially when they have, as one of their implications, to limit the rights of individuals. And I think that 2 months or however long it is since this has been introduced, we still have no sign, no evidence of the problem to which this fairly extreme set of proposals is a response. So it is not a pleasure to be here, but I think it is a duty to be here, and a duty for us to think about what it is that we should be doing as citizens in the context of this debate that's been foisted upon us. So I'm a political philosopher. One of the things that I want to try to understand, and this is really what I'm going to be sharing with you, is why after 2 months the proposal still seems to have legs. Now, this is a government, this is a minority government that over the course of the first few months of its existence became famous for putting forward fairly extreme sort of proposals and then having to backtrack on them because they realized that the support wasn't out there. And this is one where, even though it's possible that they will end up introducing as a bill something much more moderate than what we see in the discussion piece that they've submitted to us, we don't know yet. And certainly they have shown no signs of backing down in the way that they have with other pieces of legislation that they've proposed. And I think that the reason for the robustness of the support is because the proposal that we're considering here, the proposal that will form the basis of a bill which will be introduced probably in a few days or weeks, unless they decide to pull the plug and call an election, really has managed to maintain a very strange, I would almost say in this holy sanctum, an unholy alliance between three constituencies that in normal circumstances and on other debates would never be caught dead with one another, would never be on the same side of any political debate, but which find themselves still sort of being held together in ways that surprise me by this proposal. So what I want to do is to sort of give a very broad sketch of what I see those three constituencies, those three bodies of political opinion as being, and to point also to some of the fissures that we're starting to see, some of the internal debates, which give me optimism that ultimately, either at the poll or even before we get there, this may not end up becoming a bill. So three constituencies that really are being aimed at here. The first, and this is something that carries on what my colleague and friend Micheline was saying, is that there is a very strong constituency, a very strong body of opinion that believes that Quebec has not fully completed its laïque transformation. Very hard to find an English word that translates exactly what basically means. So I'll just use the word laïque. Now, as Micheline has pointed out, and as has been pointed out by a number of observers, Quebec is much more laïque today than the proponents of the bill would have us suggest. It is true that our school system only became fully laïque a few years ago. It is true that we still have funding of religious schools, but we are, in the grand scheme of things, just about as laïque as any society on the face of the earth. The kind of laïcité that we practice is, as Micheline and I have argued for now 15 years, a laïcité ouverte, one which indexes the degree to which our society is actually religiously neutral by the functioning of institutions rather than by the appearance of persons. The conception of laïcité that we insist upon is one that says that institutions, the main public institutions of our society, have to function in a way which is neutral, which does not privilege or denigrate any religion, but that doesn't mean that people who work or receive services within those institutions have to appear to be themselves neutral. It's very strange, an idea that a person could be neutral. There are two other conceptions of laïcité that are out there, I would say, however, that are not satisfied with that response. One, I think, comes from an extreme version of a version of laïcité that has its roots in some of the writings of the French Revolution in the 18th century, and which really sees the role of the state and the role of laïc institutions, not so much of sort of governing the traffic between the state and religious groups, but rather of elevating people out of religion. There is, to use a philosophical term which I hope you'll forgive me for, a perfectionist strand in some laïc thinking, which thinks that religion doesn't just have to be kept out of the state has to help individuals overcome religion, right? So I think that strand is present in part of the opinion that we're hearing that says that we have not yet fully completed our laïc revolution. And there's another one. There's another conception. So there's laïcité ouverte, which we have argued for. There's this very extreme form of laïcité, which I've just described. And then there's a third one in the middle, which I think is where pressure needs to be applied at the level of argument and discussion in order for calmer heads to prevail, which basically says it's very difficult to see how institutions can function neutrally if the agents that work within them don't appear neutral. To use a word that I've been hearing more and more in the last few weeks when I've been debating people on this issue, institutions aren't just abstract things, they are embodied through individuals. And if the people who serve you in whatever public institution you go to don't look neutral, then the institution doesn't function neutrally. Now, I think that argument has more plausibility when you just say it than when you think about it. But I think that, again, this is a place where pressure, intellectual pressure, discussion has to be placed in order to start sort of breaking through the sort of alliance that the proposal around that the government has put forward has created. So the second 5 minutes, la deuxième, is that really 5 minutes? Oh, wow, okay. So I think the second body of opinion that has really sort of latched on, qui s'est vraiment identifié à la charte, sans vraiment en référer aux détails, c'est une voix et un ensemble de préoccupations qu'on pourrait caractériser de féministes. Je pense qu'il y a beaucoup de féministes au Québec qui voient, et je pense qu'il faut avoir une certaine sympathie, une certaine empathie pour cette voix. Le Québec, comme ayant surmonté dans ces dernières années, dans ces dernières décennies, un héritage catholique que ces gens voient comme ayant été fortement délétère du point de vue des intérêts des femmes, et il y a une crainte que la vision plus permissive de la religion dans la sphère publique que nous défendons serait une manière de permettre à une recrudescence d'un antiféminisme religieux de se pointer au Québec. Je pense qu'encore une fois, objectivement, il n'y a aucune base empirique derrière cette crainte, et il y a énormément de féministes derrière la Fédération des femmes du Québec autour de regroupements intellectuels comme le Centre Simone de Beauvoir à Concordia, mais également un peu partout dans la société civile, la lettre des inclusives qui a été publiée cette semaine dans les journaux, qui montre qu'à l'intérieur du mouvement féministe, la question est en train de se poser: est-ce que la meilleure manière de promouvoir la cause du féminisme que nous devons tous avoir à cœur est vraiment de se concentrer sur des symboles religieux? Moi, je suis convaincu que la réponse est non. Mais encore une fois, je pense que le clivage qui est en train de se faire à l'intérieur de la communauté féministe est un signe pour moi qui me porte vers un certain optimisme, parce que je pense que la deuxième de ces voix risque de l'emporter sur la première. The third constituency, very quickly, which I think is really being addressed by the P2 proposal, is nationalist/sovereignist sort of body of opinion, which basically feels that over the course of the last 15 or 20 years, the sovereignist movement has gone too far in trying to present a vision of Quebec society, of an independent Quebec state, that might be attractive to not just Québécois de souche, but also people from all sorts of points of view. The time, according to this conception, has to go back to use the phrase that Jean-François Lisée used in a book that he published before he became minister, to emphasize the nous, right? We have to go back, the pendulum has to swing back to a conception of nationalism which emphasizes the historical majority that has deep roots in Quebec. Now, and I'll end with this, I think that this is another area where deep fissures are beginning to appear. My friend and former colleague Michel Seymour, a staunch sovereignist, has extremely forcefully identified himself with the opposition to the charter. He thinks that this way of going forward for the nationalist sovereignist movement is a dead end, and it is also morally corrupt, that the nationalist movement, the sovereignist movement, must continue to present a vision of Quebec society that is inclusive, rather than emphasizing the historical majority. But again, here I have optimism that the fissures are beginning to appear. So, one sentence to finish. Why does this proposal have the legs that it does? Because there are these three constituencies that each see something in it that they resonate with. Why am I optimistic that it isn't going to go forward? Because within each one of these constituencies, I think that we're starting to see some fault lines and some fissures, which make me think that this strange consensus is going to erode in the weeks and months to come. Thank you.
Back there with the mic. Okay, wonderful. This is the nice thing about, and Miller.